Conversation by Julie Benetti and Susan Barbaro is a production of EI Publishing in association with EI Alliance, copyright 2018. Visit eipublishing.com for more. Music for this series is courtesy of New Threads, copyright 2018, from their self-titled album, available now.
Hi, this is Susan, and I'm here with Julie to have a little discussion. She and I have lots of discussions, and it's good that you've been a part of a lot of them. When we have little ways of defining energy. We don't define energy the way everybody else does. It is not renewable energy. It is not solar power. It is not oil, gas, or any of the above or below. What it is, it's not psychic energy. There's nothing that gets me more angry than if someone sits there and thinks I'm talking about psychic energy.
It's so much more.
It is so much more. So we've had a lot of these discussions, and we've talked about energy with people, with relationships, and I think it's an interesting topic for us together to discuss when we talk about energy. Not to define it, but it's almost like trying to translate it. And so we started having this conversation a little bit before we did the podcast, and Julie, being the broadcasting maven that she is, tells me don't say anything until we turn the computer on and start the podcast. So that's a little bit, and I'm going to kind of take the lead in terms of asking questions, because we just re-listened to another podcast on asking questions. So
we re-listened to one of our old podcasts.
Yeah. So okay, so, Julie, you've gone through the whole realm of, psychic energy. You've studied a lot of people who've, claim to be psychics, claim to be, I'm going to say it, witches and everything else. And that kind of doesn't resonate with me. Mm-hmm. And you have been listening to them, and then you've had these conversations with me. What would you say is probably the biggest defining difference?
Well, I would be self-reflective and say the defining difference as it relates to me and how I interpret the situation and what's going on. And yes, I have been in the presence of a lot of different folks from a lot of different energy vibrations, whether they be witches or psychics or mediums
or warlocks.
Channels or warlocks or a whole bunch of different things, or anyone priestesses, yes, all those kind of things. And once again, what they claim is not my business. My business and what I'm interested in is the pure essence of energy that we are, and where that stems from, where the core of that is, what the vibration is, and how we live and move and work with that, being a physical being as well.
So, the part about the predefined label of energy, the part about it that really bothers me and made me really go deep into this is that when someone's going to tell me that, you have to turn 3 times, touch your toes, jump up and down, and, do the hokey pokey, and you turn yourself around. That's how you do a, quote, spell. Mm. That made no sense to me. Mm. Because it's like anything. If you do something blindly, you could do it. Right. But there's no intent. And it's when I started understanding intention, the power of intention and the power of really being clear and having awareness. That to me was a game changer. When someone tells me that this is the way, if you want to do it, this is the way you have to do it, and then you get certain certificates, that's where I completely say this makes no sense to me.
Right.
We all have this ability, so therefore I have the ability. And then when I started looking at it, I started realizing that if I have, where did all this come from? It came from some origination point. And I'm going to say it was a person. I'm going to use that word very loosely. But the person who created, whether it's Reiki, witchcraft, whatever it is, they did it by what I believe accessing pure energy. And then they defined it as to how they work with it. And then those who wanted to understand it said, show me what you know. And it's not that they were wrong, and it's not that tradition or, you know, giving a set of circumstances to be followed is a wrong thing. But when you don't have it's a simple thing. And if you miss that and you just go into what the steps are, you're not doing anything.
Right. And we are all energy. So if you're translating energy for yourself, you should be using your translations that work for you. And granted, you know, when you're in a community, you need to communicate with everyone else as well. Yet if you're using other people's translations, and this can overlay in many type of realms. I mean, you can look at the whole religion aspect, which I don't want to go into, but you know, there's different variances on what beliefs are and what the structure is and what the ritual is and the process. And yet there's a core that's, you know, unique and strains through all of them, that connects through all of them. So there's a situation there when you have to come to the consensus and understanding that you're an energetic being. And yes, you're here as a physical being. Okay, so then how do you balance that in how you live and what you do and your expression of energy? Energy is intangible. And so when we go to try to define it or relate it to something, that's why there are a lot of tools out there. Yeah, and there are a lot of processes to use those tools just if they work for you. You don't need them.
So see, now we're going into a conversation you and I had the other day where we were both going to kill each other. You know, we talk about tools. I think you're still a little bit more, I don't want to give you a label, but you're a little bit more sentimental. And you go into the history, you know, you pick up an object and you go more into the, you know, its past and what it was used for, versus I think I'm much more like, let me pick out a stick up off the ground and do it. That I don't go too much into, it has to be, and I know you're not saying has to be.
Well, it's funny because if you want an arm muscle, you use weights for your arm. So if you want to access something, and I'm not telling anyone that they have to do this, I know what works for me. And I just said it before, I want to translate the energy and utilize it and learn and grow and live and share what I come to understand. And if I can use tools in a certain way, that's what I'm going to do.
So let me ask you something. We can talk about Reiki, and we talk about this in a lot of our Indra stories, Reiki, the I Ching, tarot cards. Why do you think, and this is more of the question, why do you think people used objects to be able to access the energy?
Well, this was the part of what I said in the discussion to you the other day, that you call a heated argument, was it using something physical, because we're physical, makes the energy almost seem tangible. And it's almost the physical item that you're using to translate the energy almost allows you to step outside of yourself and be with the energy as well.
So now you're talking from someone who sees things. You see, I feel things. I work with acupuncture, but I mean...
Well, I also feel things. I hear things, I feel things, I sense things, I see things. So that doesn't matter.
So would you think you're using tangible, separate objects to help you to not go into habit or going to a default
No,
belief?
I don't use them all the time. And one example I'll give, I was taking a Reiki class many years ago, and they were talking about, the instructor was talking about healing with crystals and which different crystals you needed to use. And as I was sitting there, I couldn't wait to ask, and unfortunately it didn't come into the discussion until about 2 hours later, because there was a lot of processes and rules and patterns you had to follow. But, you know, my comment was, well, if you don't have an amethyst crystal, but you know the properties of an amethyst crystal, why do you need an amethyst crystal? Why can't you kind of create that to exist in that environment that you're in? Because you know, so just by knowing them, just by having that thought, you don't need to be carrying, you know, an amethyst crystal around with you.
And see, that's what
and so that's different. That's propelling from it. So that's where I go with it. Yet sometimes being is funny, because you always go more to the physical and I go more to the energetic. You know, being more physical helps the energetic to get outside of the physical. in that sense of having and using
So
tarot
it's
cards if
interesting.
they work
So
for
it's
you.
interesting because I hear what you're saying, yet I believe that, like I joke with you, you gave me the set of tarot cards. I don't read tarot. I don't read them. And you can sit there and say what you want, but the bottom line is, for me to pull out the cards will actually, in some respects, hinder me, because then I'm like, oh darn, wait a minute, what is this what does this relate to again? Oh, wait a minute, is this like a diamond? What is this? And I go to what I've been schooled in, which is acupuncture. And I'm not saying acupuncture is 100%, because the traditional acupuncture, yes, but I think it's even been changed now. It's all about one person's definition, and you have to pass tests based on what one person has said, which to me makes no sense at all. And so I hear what you're saying, that the different tools can help you, but I also think that the tools have now been manipulated and kind of pirated to be in, like you just said about, different
Crystals.
the crystals. But now you understand crystals. I don't. I'd have to sit there and open up a crystal, see what I got. Now let me go to a book. What is the book going to tell me? Whereas if I let everything go, and I'm not dismissing what anyone else has said about any of the things we've talked about, but if I just go and I go into my intuition, I can open up to a lot more. Yet I will admit that I will then I sometimes doubt.
So the reason why I just kind of giggled a little bit, which hopefully you didn't hear.
Yeah, I heard you. That's why I just talked a little louder.
Because what you just said proved my point. Because you said, oh my gosh, now I have the tarot cards and I don't know what that means on that. So I need to go and access the book, because you didn't put in that whole line there. That's what I've been told. That's what the book is for, to see what the card means. And then the card will tell me what it means. And then it'll tell me this is going to happen. No, that's not what I said at all. The cards.
Oh no, you didn't. You didn't. No,
I know. But you said, you went right to it and said, I want to use my intuition.
No,
the cards are for your intuition. There have been a number of times, and I have witnesses where I've been doing a reading and you've stepped in and said, oh, doesn't that card mean this? And doesn't that mean this? And doesn't that mean this? And you're not accessing a book. I do. I have witnesses.
Got any
Unfortunately,
witnesses.
they're on your side of your family, so I'd have to finagle that a little bit, but I could give them a couple of readings. I'm sure they'd be fine. And where you look, so the environment is there. So who are you kidding?
No,
so
I'm making the point. Wait a minute. I'm making the point that's what I'm saying. It limits people.
But it's you putting the limit. So if you, listen everybody, you go out there and you find a tarot deck that you love, or you find some runes, or you find some sticks outside, whatever they mean to you is what they mean. Whatever comes out from seeing them. And there's a book with it. Some people say, throw the book out. Sometimes the book is entertaining. Sometimes you propel from something, or it gives you the words you might want to use to assimilate the energy.
That everybody who is out there listening to this just got the beautiful thing that Julie just said. And that is the difference between what's out there and what is deemed, quote, psychic energy, and what the energy that we are, I don't want to define because it's undefinable, but we work with. It does not fall into anyone's definition of this is how you do it. You stand on your head, and if you don't do this, then you take a test, and then you have to pass the test. Julie and I work, and I'm sorry I got you all heated. She's got a red face and she's looking at me. But the truth is that is really what we access and we work with. And I work really hard to unpeel the layers of all the garbage that has been, I've been told I have to do. And, that's really the energy in its purest form. I mean, and even the whole positive energy, I like positive and the negative energy. There's just energy, folks. There's no positive energy. There's no negative energy until polarity kicks in, and then it becomes positive and negative. But if you go to the core of it, it's just energy.
And the polarity kicks in when there's a sense of duality, and when something becomes good and bad. And guess how it becomes good and bad? by our thoughts, by our comprehension, by our judgment, by our
Beliefs.
viewpoint, by
I
our
think it's
beliefs.
more than anything.
Yes,
it's beliefs.
by our beliefs.
If you, because every time I hear it's positive energy or it's negative energy, these people have bad energy, it's dark energy. I just want to slap them. I mean, one of the things I said today, I'm going to add, a little personal note is I'm going to embrace my dark side. And that doesn't mean now I'm going emo or I'm going dark. It means the part that just hasn't come to light. I want to find more parts of who I am that I'm unaware of. It's not this, I'm bringing out my devil and the demons. That's garbage. It just means I'm bringing out the part that hasn't come to light to me.
And sometimes when you bring something that has been known, that has kind of a little, and bear with me, a little bit kind of a dalliance, of a enigma around it, that'll spark something. I mean, you can like tarot cards that'll spark you sensing something else when you look at a card. Whatever pops out at you. I mean, you can sit in your kitchen and look in your kitchen and something will pop out. Or sometimes it becomes so habitual and usual to what your brain creates as the situation of what you view in your kitchen that you take things for granted and don't remember what's where. You can go to someone else's kitchen and something pops out and you say, ooh, I should call my mom today. Or whatever, in that sense. And that's a little dalliance of your intuition, or something coming out to, your voice coming out to saying, hey, listen to me. I can share some stuff about energy with you.
And I just...
And who better person to listen to?
That's so
than yourself.
Cool. That's so true. So I think it's this podcast was important because we're not talking, and I don't know if it's come across on this podcast or not, but we are not talking about what everybody else is out there is speaking about. Now, I have not listened to what everybody else has said. So I may be speaking a little prematurely, or however, my idea of energy that I deal with, because I am very physical as well as being energetic. You're much more energetic. You stay up in the clouds every now and then.
Well,
I have to scream.
too. Yeah.
But I'm just saying that
you have to have a balance,
right?
Yeah.
But I look at some of these other people that are here that are, I don't know, quote, energy workers. I'm just going to say, and it just makes me laugh. It just makes me laugh because the deal. The deepest, the core of the energy is non-definable. And as much as, the best piece of advice I feel I could give is to explore it within yourself. I can't even, I'm not going to define how anyone does it or what happens. I think there's all different types of possibilities. I don't see it. I don't hear it. I do feel it. I can sense it. And I'm working on improving my vocabulary, not to do these podcasts because I stumble a lot still on the words that I want to use here, but for my own. And
you also have to, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but you also have to improve, how, not you, just generically, you have to improve how you grasp it yourself. Because I could turn around and say, but wait a minute, you tell me you see things all the time, and you tell me you hear things all the time, but you convince yourself otherwise, and so you're not listening to yourself. And so if something occurs, that's one of the beautifulest gifts you can give yourself, is listen to that voice that's trying to say to you, tell you something, and that's there extrapolating the energy and in the energy, because we're all in the energy. We all are energy, and we're also physical, and that's beautiful. And to sense things and hear things and know things, a lot of people kind of push them aside, and that's why they say, oh no, I'm not psychic, somebody else is psychic. And that's not what we're talking about at all.
No,
not at all. We're talking about the real, rawest form of energy that's the core of who you are.
And we could go into the whole idea of being psychic and, fortune telling and all that. And I'm not denying that probably does become a little bit more prevalent once you open up to that. Yet, that bores you know what side of me. I mean, that's just so boring. Who cares? Who wants to go and
Well, especially if
So-
you turn around and you think about time and you think about, you know, how time exists, and we won't get into a conversation on
No.
time, which is fun. Yet, you know, time is man-made, and if you start projecting what's the future, and if you know, you start segregating past, present, future, and you're existing in that linear space of time, and I did go into it now.
God, well, I'm
You're,
gonna stop.
you're
Yeah.
projecting going into the
Holy
future
moly.
and getting a reading and stuff like that. There's a whole different perspective to look at it, which negates the whole aspect of just that kind of
So
energy.
if you're looking for a psychic reading, if you're looking to you know, be able to, you know, tell somebody what's in the future, whether or not they've been jealous or whether they've been upset or whatever, because we've heard I don't want to say intimate because it has a, you know, but behind the scenes on things that are said, and it's actually comical. So if you are interested and you like what we're talking about, just go back and listen to some of the other stuff, because we go back there and every time we hear it, we hear something different. So we just invite you to do it. Thanks for listening, and you know, namaste.
Have a great day. This has been a production of EI Publishing in association with EI Alliance. Listen to other episodes and visit eipublishing.com to find more energized podcasts and books. Find New Threads' self-titled album, New Threads, on iTunes, Spotify, Bandcamp, or at newthreads.us. Thank you for listening.